Hey there guys, today we have another very heavily requested vehicle to take a look at, the Su-33, aka the Navy Flanker. This is a vehicle which I have seen an absolute ton of people flying around in, but it seems like somewhere in the ballpark of 90% of them are using it completely wrong. Hopefully we can change that today. Just a quick overview in case you aren't familiar with this aircraft. This is a navalized variant of the Su-27 Flanker, which is found in the tech tree at the same battle rating. And while these two may seem very similar at a glance, the Su-33 does have a few key differences. For one, while the Su-33 does have stronger engines, it's also had its airframe and landing gear reinforced for carrier operations, as well as having canards added, leading to a major increase in weight, which you can definitely feel when maneuvering aggressively, and also it only gets half as many countermeasures. On the other hand though, you get 2 extra missile slots, taking the total number up from 10 to 12. Looking at your missile options, there are 3 types I would recommend taking out. First is the R-27ER, and while I doubt this missile needs much introduction, for those not familiar, the R-27ER is basically the king of semi-active radar missiles, having superior range not only to the late AIM-7 variants, but also the AIM-120A and B. Not that I would typically recommend trying to BVR fight anything with Fox 3s for hopefully obvious reasons. The ER is going to be your primary source of kills in this aircraft, being able to not only engage enemies from extremely long distances, but also effectively engage targets at closer range thanks to its excellent acceleration and maneuverability, which will allow you to even pull off-bore sight shots in some cases. Your second missile is the R-73. These are thrust vectoring gate-width IRCCM missiles, and you have dedicated slots for up to 4 of them. These missiles don't have the greatest acceleration, but they do have quite a bit of range to them, so are best used either against enemies a few kilometers away who don't see you, or in rear aspect shots against enemies closer by. And then there are the R-27ETs, which you just saw me beam that Phantom with. These are basically R-27ERs, except with the radar seeker swapped out for a gate-width IRCCM seeker like that on the R-73. Do note, though, that the IR Seeker is a bit less aerodynamic, so it will not have quite as much range as the ER. With the normal tech tree flanker, there's an argument to be made on whether or not to bring these or not, but on the Su-33 with the extra missile slots, I would definitely recommend bringing out at least one of them for reasons I'll explain once I get to strategy. Also worth mentioning here is the radar, which I do actually find to be pretty good, and subjectively, it feels like it holds lock a lot better than other ones I've used, but the big problem is that the sight FOV is locked at a very wide angle. This is fine for tracking targets at very long range where you aren't pressed for time, but in situations where the teams have merged and the enemies are all around you, this will be very problematic since you won't be able to spot targets quickly. So with all that being said, how do you actually play this thing? Well, first, I would tell you to take everything you've seen from TikTok clips or YouTube shorts about Macobra maneuver and chuck it out the window. Not only is the Su-33 one of the chunkier flanker variants, but wasting all of your energy trying to pull a funny switcheroo on people is going to waste your massive BVR potential and often will just get you killed. So instead of diving headfirst into the furball and spamming R-73s everywhere, we're going to be boring today and play this thing methodically and cautiously, which might not get you as many spectacular clips to use in edits, but will definitely end up giving you a significantly higher average kill-to-death ratio. To start off with, we're going to do my usual climb out to the left at 10 degrees until you hit 5,000 meters approach, though perhaps a bit further out from the bases than you usually would. But after that, we're going to do things a little bit different. Because we don't have active radar missiles, while many of our opponents will, we want to be very careful about how we approach BVR. Rather than trying to aggressively take shots on as many targets as we can to eliminate them early on, we want to look for lone targets at the edge of the engagement area to pick them off one by one. Think of the engagement area as a big circle. Basically, we want to go clockwise around the edge of that circle, cautiously popping in and out to pick off targets of opportunity. This will allow you to make full use of your extremely large missile loadout while also minimizing the impact of your poor energy retention and relatively small number of countermeasures. Ideally, you want to stay high and fast while doing this. You can't rapidly re-accelerate if you do lose speed, so keeping up your energy is important. For high altitudes, 25 kilometers is pretty much the effective range of your ERs, though of course you should let people get closer if you're confident they don't notice you. Also, as you circle the map, keep an eye out for targets that pass by you and end up turning rear aspect, because these will make excellent targets to use your R-27ETs on, since the gate with IRCCM works best on targets who are rear aspect to you. And thanks to the insane range of the ETs, you can easily hit targets in rear aspect from as far away as 10 kilometers, especially if you have a bit of altitude. Don't bother full committing or killing all your speed to hit these targets though. The ETs are very maneuverable, so you can use your HMD to fire off bore sight. If the enemies are closer in, you can basically do the same thing with your R-73s, since even though they're no ETs, they still do have a lot more range to them than you might expect. You can also use these missiles to snipe people who are dogfighting with your teammates. Gate-width IRCCM missiles like the R-73 are far less likely to switch lock onto your teammates when compared to radar missiles or other types of IR missiles, though this can still happen if your teammate passes directly in front of the enemy, so be cautious when using them like this though. The last little trick I'll mention here regarding IR missiles, especially ETs, is what to do if you have one enemy flying away from you and another enemy flying towards you. If you encounter a situation like this, fire your ET first at the enemy flying away and then lock the oncoming target and engage him with an ER, since obviously the ER requires you to maintain a radar lock for guidance. Anyways, now that we've gone over your initial moves, let's talk about the mid to late game. Like I mentioned earlier, your radar is not good for quickly picking up targets directly in front of you, which puts you at a serious disadvantage in terms of situational awareness. Because of this, it's very important to start trying to eliminate as many enemies as you can and to keep as many of your teammates alive as possible. This means once you've circled back behind the enemy's left bases and are confident you've caught any isolated targets, you can start circling in towards the center of the map to third-party the enemies engaging your teammates. Don't do this prematurely though. The idea here is we want to use all the low-flying premium noobs on our team as essentially sacrificial pawns in order to tie down the enemy and allow us to come in and hit them from behind while they're distracted. If you turn in too early, the enemy is very likely to see you coming, and at best, you're going to end up having to go defensive and waste all of your energy notching. If you can catch a pack of enemies from behind going low and slow, they'll make great targets for your IRCCM missiles for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Lastly, let's talk about what to do if you actually get sucked into a dogfight. Let me be absolutely clear, despite the reputation flankers have for being good in these situations, you should avoid having this happen at all costs, because it will result in you running out of energy even if you win. The Su-33 is just not a good vehicle for sustained dogfights, so if you get sucked into one, I'd recommend just full sending it and risking everything trying to force the enemy to overshoot. This does not necessarily mean completely stalling yourself out right off the bat, but at least forcing the enemy to put themselves into range of your HMD so you can fire an R-73. If the enemy is a total noob, this won't be too difficult, but if somebody actually knows what they're doing, they may end up getting too close to take an R-73 shot. And if that's the case, don't forget you do have a cannon. The Su-33 does have pretty decent low-speed controllability, so if you notice somebody behaving like this, going for broke on a cannon shot may be your best option. Even if you lose the dogfight though, the match may not actually be over for you. Even if you get severely damaged, as long as you have at least one wingtip left, your HMD will allow you to pretty easily take R-73 shots at people passing by. Many people will incorrectly assume that you no longer pose a threat to them, which will only make getting these shots even easier. This kind of reminds me of the Last Stand perk from some of the older Call of Duty games, in that it will allow you to collect a number of additional bullshit kills which you really have no right to, but it's still quite funny when it works. Overall, I found the Su-33 to be an extremely powerful and effective aircraft. I played 46 matches in it, which resulted in a 63% win rate and just above a 3-to-1 kill-death ratio overall. It's one of those jets where it might not be totally dominant every single time, but it will very regularly get you 3 to 4 kill games if you can exploit positioning correctly. If you're considering picking this up as a squadron vehicle, I would definitely recommend it. That's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the playlist in the description to see guides like this for other aircraft, and I'll see you guys in the next one.